Did ancient human relatives start using tools way before we ever thought possible? A shocking discovery might have just changed everything we know about our early ancestors. At a remote site near Lake Victoria in Kenya, scientists uncovered something unexpected. Hundreds of carefully crafted stone tools lie right next to fossilized teeth from an ancient hominin species called Paranthropus. That's a big deal. Until now, experts believed complex tools were only used by our direct ancestors, like Homo habilis or Homo erectus, but these tools were found right next to a species that was never considered a tool user. Even more surprising, these stone tools are older than any previously found in the region. We're talking about 2.9 million years old, maybe even older. That pushes back the timeline of tool use by hundreds of thousands of years. And if Paranthropus was really making or using tools, then we might need to rewrite a big part of our human origin story. So, what exactly did they find? The Nyayanga discovery, tools and teeth. The Nyayanga site in Kenya revealed something extraordinary. Alongside butchered animal bones, scientists found more than 300 tools made by breaking rocks to create sharp edges. Some were clearly used to cut meat, others for pounding tough plant materials. Right near these tools, they also found 2 fossilized teeth belonging to Paranthropus. This species is known for its giant chewing muscles and strong jaws, leading researchers to think they survived mainly on hard plant foods. But the tools suggest a more complex story. Paranthropus might have used stone tools to access new types of food, like meat or marrow. Oldowan tools, simple but powerful. Oldowan tools are named after Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, where they were first discovered. These simple tools, flakes for cutting, hammerstones for pounding, and cores used to shape other tools, were incredibly useful. They allowed early hominins to butcher animals, break open bones for marrow, and process tough plants. These tools were so effective that they stayed in use for over 1.5 million years and eventually spread to Europe, Asia, and beyond. Wider spread and earlier use than ever known. Before this discovery, the oldest Oldowan tools were found in Ethiopia, over 1,300 kilometers from Nyayanga. This new site shows that early humans, or their relatives, spread these tools much earlier and farther than we thought. What's even more amazing is that some tools were found on top of hippo bones that had cut marks, clear signs that they were used to process meat. This proves these tools were not just for plants, they were part of a bigger diet shift. The handbones that tell a story. Even when tools aren't found, bones can still tell us a lot. A recent study looked at the handbones of an ancient species called Australopithecus africanus, and what they found was remarkable. The internal structure of these bones showed stress patterns from gripping and pinching, similar to how modern humans hold and use tools. That means that even over 3 million years ago, some early hominins were already using their hands in tool-like ways. This could push back the timeline of tool use even further and suggest that more species have been experimenting with tools than we previously thought. Clues left on bones. One of the most fascinating pieces of evidence for early tool use doesn't come from the tools themselves, but from animal bones. At a site called Buri in Ethiopia, scientists discovered bones from an antelope-like animal that had clear-cut marks made by a sharp object. These marks weren't random scratches. They showed the kind of precise slicing you would expect if someone was trying to remove meat from the animal's jaw. Nearby, scattered stone tools were found, simple flakes likely used for cutting. This site is about 2.5 million years old. It's one of the earliest solid examples of human ancestors using tools not just to survive, but to shape the world around them. They were no longer just scavenging. They were using technology to access new food sources. Butchering bones at Dikika. Even earlier, at another Ethiopian site called Dikika, researchers found bones dated to 3.4 million years ago. These bones came from large animals and showed deep cuts and percussion marks, the kind that happens when sharp stones are used to remove flesh or break bones open for marrow. Are the species likely responsible? Australopithecus, afarensis, the same species as the famous Lucy. No tools were found directly at Dikika, but the marks on the bones tell the story. In one case, researchers even found a tiny chip of rock embedded in a cut mark, proving a stone tool was used. This changes how we picture Lucy. Instead of just walking upright and eating fruit, she may have been slicing meat with a sharp rock millions of years before we thought tool use began. Lomekwian tools, even older than Oldowan. The Oldowan tools weren't even the first. In 2011, researchers in West Turkana, Kenya, discovered even older tools dated to 3.3 million years ago. These simpler tools are called Lomekwian tools, named after the site where they were found. These tools were bigger and more primitive than Oldowan ones. They were made by holding a rock and striking it against another, resting on the ground. This method suggests a different approach to tool making, possibly used to crack nuts or access bone marrow. We don't know exactly which hominin made the Lomekwian tools, but the age and location suggest Australopithecus species again. How tools changed our bodies. Using tools didn't just help early humans eat better, it may have changed their bodies too. When scientists studied the hand bones of early hominins, they found signs of stress in the parts of the thumb and fingers used for gripping and precision. These marks are like fingerprints left by a lifetime of using tools. Modern chimpanzees don't show these patterns, but Australopithecus africanus does. This means that even before the tools themselves were invented, the hands of early humans were adapting for fine control. Over time, this shift in how hands were used may have driven the evolution of stronger thumbs, better grips, and more stable wrists, all traits we depend on today. A feedback loop of evolution. As hominins improved at making tools, they gained access to new types of food, meat, bone marrow, and tough plants. These foods are packed with energy, and with more energy, our ancestors could grow bigger brains and stronger bodies. This created a feedback loop. Better tools meant better food meant better brains, and better brains meant even better tools. It's a cycle that shaped our species, and it all started with a few chipped rocks millions of years ago. Who used these tools? Traditionally, Oldowan tools were thought to belong to Homo habilis, one of the earliest species in our genus, but discoveries at Nyayanga challenged that idea. Alongside the tools, researchers found 2 teeth from another ancient species, Paranthropus. This hominin had a powerful jaw and massive teeth, adapted for chewing tough foods like roots and seeds. Until recently, scientists didn't believe Paranthropus used tools at all, but the evidence is growing. Maybe Paranthropus used tools to expand its diet, just like early humans did. Or maybe both species shared the same environment and used tools in different ways. Some scientists have even joked that maybe one was eating the other. When tools leave, no tools behind. Sometimes, ancient tools don't survive, but our ancestors left other clues. A study of hand bones from Australopithecus africanus, a species that lived over 2.5 million years ago, showed that their hands were built for gripping, not for swinging from trees like apes, not for walking on knuckles like chimps, but for holding tools. This internal bone structure was shaped by years of precise, powerful hand use, such as holding and using sharp rocks. This discovery lets scientists guess whether early humans used tools, even if they haven't found the tools themselves. The Aulan Leap. Eventually, tool use moved beyond simple flakes. Around 1.7 million years ago, we saw a new kind of tool, hand axes, and large cutters carefully shaped on both sides. This marks the start of what's called the Aulan period. These tools were more complex and specialized, and possibly required teaching to learn. They show the growing intelligence and skill of hominins like Homo erectus, who had bigger brains and bodies than their ancestors. But even here, the story gets complicated. In China, Aulan tools have been found that are 2.1 million years old. Older than Homo erectus was believed to have left Africa, so maybe an even earlier species made them. Or maybe Homo erectus traveled farther and faster than we thought. A new chapter in our evolution. From Australopithecus, slicing meat 3.4 million years ago, to Paranthropus, possibly adopting tools and Homo habilis refining them. The story of stone tools is a story of evolution. These tools didn't just help our ancestors survive, they helped shape who we became. Brains grew, hands changed, new behaviors emerged. Technology wasn't just something we used, it was something that made us human. Even though we now live in a world of smartphones and satellites, the roots of our technological journey stretch back to the chipped rocks of the African savanna. Because before we built cities, before we wrote languages, before we made fire, our ancestors picked up a stone, struck it, and changed the course of history. And that's the story of how a few sharp rocks helped shape the future of humanity. If you enjoyed this deep dive into our ancient past, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next chapter in human evolution. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.